Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I keep you up to date with all of the latest news in the game industry. And a lot of things happened this weekend. Hope you enjoyed your weekend, by the way. I've been playing Lost Odyssey myself, but I've been thinking about taking the family out to see the new Sonic movie, which has surprisingly done really well in its opening weekend. I mean, I'm talking it broke a new record, so we're going to talk about that, plus we have a lot more to discuss. So Remedy Entertainment is working on a few new games, and could one possibly be the heavily rumored Alan Wake sequel? Also, Platinum Games, the developer behind Astral Chain and Nier, is openly talking about a sequel themselves. And then we have some next generation news on top of that, with Gran Turismo for the PlayStation 5 and much more, so stay tuned for all of that. First though, let's kick off the episode with some new Nintendo games that has surfaced online. So we may not have a new Nintendo Direct announcement just yet, so the drought will not be ending as of this moment, but one thing that we don't seem to be short on is Nintendo games being rated online that hasn't been announced yet. In the last couple months, this has seemed to happen on several different occasions, which always leads to speculation on whether or not a new Nintendo Direct will come or not, but I'm kind of tired of speculating as to when that will ever happen. Nonetheless, not long ago, Metro Redux was rated, and of course it was officially announced shortly after, but now we got a few new games rated in Korea by the Korean Game Rating and Administration Committee, which is the BioShock Collection, and that was also rated somewhere else, I believe, earlier this month, but then there is two new games on there as well, which are Catherine, Full Body, and XCOM 2. XCOM is, of course, one of the most popular tactical RPGs on the market, so this is really good news, as we could always use more games like this on the Switch, and I do think it will translate really well. But I think the one that most people are going to be talking about is Catherine's Full Body, since it has been exclusive to PlayStation for a little while now, and we just talked about this last week, but SMT Central on Twitter was claiming that PlayStation had some kind of exclusive deal with both Catherine's Full Body and Persona, but they may be expiring. We also had that survey going out to Nintendo users about whether or not they would want games like Persona 3, 4, 5, Catherine, among several other games to be ported over to the Nintendo Switch. So when you start to pair these news pieces together only 1 week apart from another, things start to look a little bit more interesting. I do wonder if Atlus plans to port more games beyond just Catherine's Full Body. Maybe if PlayStation did in fact have an exclusive deal for Persona and Catherine, I mean this is an if, but if they did it really end beginning in 2020? So the question now is, could it really be possible for some of the Persona games to come over to the Nintendo Switch? And I know I'm just speculating as of this moment, but there is more to this story, because in an article posted today by IGN, they asked Atlus community manager if people should give up hope on Persona 5 coming over to the Switch, and she said to not give up hope and to keep fighting. She even said she has been fighting internally with Atlus to bring it over to the Nintendo Switch. Now, with that said, she did point out that she isn't the decision maker, so don't take that as some kind of confirmation that anything will happen, but we do know at the very least that there is internal discussions over this, and it could be possible. And as I said last week, I think that these games would translate perfectly over to the Switch. I mean, Switch is huge in Japan right now, so I think it would sell really well over there, and for that matter, I think that it would sell really well worldwide. Especially looking at games like Persona 4 Golden, which yes, I do believe is the best in the franchise, and I think that there isn't a great way for a lot of people to play it today. It was big on the PlayStation Vita, but unfortunately, not a lot of people really have the Vita. Bring Persona 4 to the Switch, and I think you have a big time seller. Enough of me speculating though. I do hope it happens, but for the time being, we should at least expect an official announcement coming soon for the BioShock Collection, XCOM 2, and Catherine's Full Body for the Switch. All three of these are welcome additions, and I'd highly recommend all three of them if you haven't played them already. Moving on, Remedy Entertainment has been incredibly busy as of late. In August of 2019, they released Control, which won several awards, and honestly, I love that game, so I think that the awards was well deserved. It is one of the most creative games I've played in a really long time, with a strong narrative on top of that. Unfortunately, it did have some technical issues on the base consoles, but I played it on the Xbox One X myself and had no issues. Either way though, they're apparently working on 3 more games. They have Crossfire X, the single-player campaign, coming soon for Xbox One. Crossfire, of course, is a huge franchise over in Asia, but will be coming to Xbox One this year, and I'm really excited to see what Remedy did with the single-player campaign, as they are masters at making single-player experiences. But then they have 2 more games in the works. One is being named Vanguard, though we don't know much about it other than it is a multiplayer game. Now, we do know that there is a playable version of it, so we may be hearing about this one sooner rather than later, but the next one is the one that caught my eye because they have announced their 3rd title is based on the company's own brands. So based off the wording here, it sounds like they will be working on an existing IP that they have worked on themselves, and I think when you piece the puzzle together here, it sounds like it could be the heavily anticipated Alan Wake sequel. I say this for a few different reasons actually. One being Remedy Entertainment acquired the rights of Alan Wake from Microsoft last year, and I really don't know why they would acquire Alan Wake unless they wanted to work on it. I mean, it makes no sense to acquire something unless you want to do something with it, right? Plus, Control has DLC coming later this year that revolves around Alan Wake in some shape or form by the name of AWE. We don't know just how yet, but the DLC expansion for AWE uses the Alan Wake font. You can see Alan shining his flashlight in it, and yeah, it's pretty clear it's Alan Wake related somehow. This new game though, I mean, it could be something else, but yeah, right now I'm really thinking it's related to Alan Wake. What do you think though? Let me know in the comments below. And speaking of sequels, Hideki Kamiya from Platinum Games is openly talking about doing a sequel for Wonderful 101, but he says that this largely depends on how well Wonderful 101 does once it hits the open market. This sounds all too familiar, as really Platinum Games says the exact same thing with Astral Chain, which did reach 1 million in sales earlier this year, so I'm pretty hopeful there. But anyways, Wonderful 101 did release for the Wii U back in 2013, and unfortunately, I mean, it sold pretty terribly. Though, as I've said multiple times, we do need to keep in mind that the Wii U was also a failure, and this time around, Wonderful 101 with a successful Kickstarter has a much better chance of success, considering not only will it be releasing on the wildly popular Nintendo Switch, but it will also be coming to the PlayStation 4 and the PC. So maybe this time it can sell well, and Hideki Kamiya sounds very passionate about Wonderful 101. He strongly believes that it is a great game and that he sounded genuinely surprised that it didn't sell well on the Wii U. He also said he was dreaming up of all kinds of ideas for a sequel, including one where Wonder Blue was the leader. But once the numbers came out, he just had to move on, unfortunately. So with Wonderful 101 having a second chance, who knows, maybe we can get a sequel, but if you do want a sequel, you need to go out and support this game. Go out and buy it and spread the news and let other people know about it. The more, the better, and like I said, the more people that gets it, the more chances there is for a possible sequel. And staying on topic of success, the new Sonic movie has released in theaters to a lot of success actually. When I first saw the original Sonic trailer, you know, I, like many people, thought Sonic's design was just atrocious. I mean, it just looked hideous. I never thought this movie was going to have success, but they went back to the drawing board and redesigned Sonic, and he now looks really good actually. It also looks like it paid off and fans are really enjoying this movie. In fact, it has now become the best opening weekend for any game-related movie adaptation, beating out Detective Pikachu. Sonic opened up with $57 million opposed to Detective Pikachu's $54 million, and that is really surprising considering how massively popular the Pokemon franchise is. I mean, Sonic is huge too, especially if you grew up watching gaming's biggest rivals, Mario vs. Sonic, but I'm shocked that this is as successful as it is. Of course, it does have Jim Carrey in it as well, and I'm sure that does play a part, but as a Sonic fan, I'm happy to see it doing so well. There is even speculation that it could even get a sequel, and hey, if people are really enjoying it this much, let's go for it. I also feel like we are getting to the point where we are starting to see some success stories with game-related adaptations in cinema. For such a long time, it seemed like they have always been atrocious, but with the last couple of years, we have Sonic and we have Detective Pikachu. And to a lesser degree, you also have the Witcher Netflix series, but that actually is based off books, so I can't really count that. Nonetheless, I'm definitely going to need to go check out the new Sonic movie soon. Let me know your thoughts on it if you have watched it already, just no spoilers please. In other news, we have 2 next generation games to talk about. Yeah, that's right, next generation is right around the corner, so we can openly talk about this stuff now. One is really interesting though because Polyphony Digital Studio head Kazumori Yamachi has alluded to what we may come to expect for the next generation Gran Turismo. So he did say that 4K is enough, but he is more interested in what they can do with the frame rate and doesn't want to stop at just 60 frames per second. Instead, he wants 120 frames per second or even 240 frames per second. Of course, that sounds like great news, and I honestly think that they could achieve 120 frames per second for Gran Turismo. Racing games is the one genre that I don't think that is out of the realms of possibility, and with better processors and TVs will now have HDMI 2.1, you can get up to 120 frames per second on your TV. However, the 240 frames per second might be just a little too ambitious, and it's not because I think it's impossible, but TVs are not really capable of that right now. Now, you could technically plug your PlayStation 5 into a high-end monitor and get up to 240 frames per second that way, but I don't think many people would actually do that, so I don't see that being a big payoff unless Gran Turismo also launches on the PC as well. We can't really rule that out as of this moment either, just because Sony has been releasing more games on PC like Death Stranding, Detroit, and from the sounds of it, you're also going to have Horizon Zero Dawn as well, but this certainly wasn't an announcement for another PC game, so I'm not going to speculate about that. Based off what we do know though, I don't expect 240 frames per second for Gran Turismo on PlayStation 5. 120 frames per second sounds amazing though, so hopefully they do reach their goal there. Rainbow Six Siege was also announced for next-generation consoles by the game director Leroy Athanasoff. He went on to say he wants to release it for both the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 at launch, so we can expect to see more Siege next generation. This does sound like it will be a full release rather than it just being some kind of backwards compatibility, and there is also going to be cross-generational support. I have continuously said this is one of the best competitive multiplayer games on the market, so this is great news. I'm glad to see it get continued support, and I hope that continues for years and years to come. Now, the last bit of news I want to talk about real quick is Overwatch and Diablo, because it looks like they will be getting an animated series. This will apparently be done in an anime art style, and this is directly coming from Nick Van Dyke, who is the president of the film and TV division for Activision Blizzard. Apparently on his LinkedIn profile, he has it that he has worked on 2 unannounced projects being Diablo and Overwatch, and that they are rendered in anime. Nothing else is known about this other than that, but that is really big news. For a long time, fans have really wanted Blizzard to release movie adaptations of games like Overwatch because of just how good their shorts are. I mean, they do make some of the best cinematics of the entire industry, but it does look like they will be doing some kind of animated series. I'll be really interested to hear more about these projects in the future. Also, before ending this episode, I do want to let you know of one last thing, that an old Blizzard game that was canceled did leak online, which is Starcraft Ghosts. I don't want to talk about it too much on the channel just because I'm not sure I'm even allowed to post footage of this game on my channel without getting in trouble, but you can go out there and check this out if you want. It can be found pretty easily, so just go look up Starcraft Ghosts, I'm sure you'll run into it. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Peace out.